Funko Pops. A bit of a divisive subject, and I certainly don't want to disparage anyone listening to this who enjoys collecting Funko Pops. Like, we've all got our own thing, you know? We're all guilty of buying the thing with the face of the character that we like on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing that we do. It's just a part of life. But I think the problem with Funko Pops, for me and a lot of other people, I guess it's kind of twofold. It's like, one, the figures they just look really unappealing. They really do. Just like the soulless button eyes. It could be cute. I feel like it should be cute, but instead they just look weird. The boxy heads and the fact that you have all of these characters now, trillions and trillions of characters, and they all have this similarly unpleasant style. And then on top of that, it's just how like pervasive these things have become over the years. It's just, they take up more and more and more room at the store. And, you know, they kind of, I don't know. Again, we're all about like consumption of IPs and whatnot. But I guess Funko Pops, they feel like the ultimate expression of just like a certain brand of like purely cynical leveraging of various IPs. You know, it seems like you take this idea of the properties and you really sap everything good out of it. You sap all creativity away, and what's left is something that is only a bid to get you money. It's just this thing. It doesn't even have any life left. It's literally just, hey, look, IP you enjoy, please consume it, you know? So that, I don't know, that's the way that I see it. But again, like, yeah, whatever. Like, if that's your thing, that's fine. I got plenty of things that plenty of other people would look at and be like, that's stupid, whatever. That's not really the point. But it is true, it is relevant to say that for a lot of people, Funko Pops are just very, very unappealing. And I don't know, they have been around for a long time, so there must be a good amount of people still buying them. It must be a thing. At this point, I don't know, is it mostly kids? Is it mostly collectors, like whales? Are there like a very small amount of the population who buys all the Funko Pops? I don't really know, but they must be working in some way, because in the year of 2024, they decided to do a Funko Pop video game. I don't know how good of an idea it was to make a Funko Pop video game in 2024 after like they'd been around for so long. They have grown into this massive and massively kind of hated thing. I don't know, I feel like maybe during the heyday they could have put this out, but like it almost feels like it just feels really late. And you know, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how much of a market there was or could be for something like this. But what you can't argue is that the game they put out simply failed to be a good product. That's just the way that it went. They put out Funko Fusion, and it was just bad. I think the concept wasn't terrible on paper. You know, if you do have this, I mean, Funko itself is basically an IP. So sure, you're already working with all these different companies. Let's make a game using the IP, and that itself will work with a bunch of other, because that's the whole thing right now, right? Is like, what IPs do you have access to, and can you cram them all into one product? And that idea used to be fun. It used to be cool to like, oh, all my favorites are here. This is really exciting. And now it's just like, it's just something that everybody's doing, and it is feeling less and less fun and more cynical. But at the same time, sure, I get it. Okay, let's use all these IPs. Let's use our Funko Pop product thing that we got going here. Let's make a thing with a bunch of IPs. There's got to be some audience for it. If there are still people buying Funko Pops, then maybe those people will want the game. People who enjoy the IPs in the game will want the... Sure, I can see that on some level, maybe this was an okay idea. But it seems that the execution was very, very poor. The game just turned out bad. I don't know, I didn't play it myself, but I do remember watching trailers. And even from the trailers that are supposed to be cut to make the game look as good as possible, looked terrible. Just looked really, really unfinished and unappealing in just about every way. And, the game came out, and it turned out, yes, it was just a bad game. Just a buggy mess, not really fun. Not even, didn't even really have that many good IPs. And the real problem here is you got Fortnite. Fortnite's right there. It's sitting right there. You already have, your competition is already very well established. It's got every IP imaginable in it, and it's free to play. So now you're expecting your audience to purchase this product, which is just less appealing overall. It's based on these Funko Pops, which you may like, or you may actively despise. The list of IPs they're pulling from, I don't know, maybe okay, but nothing compared to something like Fortnite. And then this is a premium product that you've got to purchase with money. It is not free to play or anything. It's a game you gotta buy. And it's just bad. It's just a bad game. It's just a buggy, awful mess. So it is not surprising then that the game did not work. It has failed rather definitively. Some anonymous sources associated with development of the game have come forward and stated that it is a complete commercial and critical failure. Nobody liked the game, and nobody bought the game. You don't even get that thing. We're like, well, at least it reviewed well. No, nothing. Everyone hated it. It flopped completely. Now, in a scenario like this, I feel like we deserve to take a look at a product like this and look at the people who made it, or at least the people who decided to make it, and just be like, you deserve it. You deserve this failure. You just do. I don't like to see people fail. I try to be positive. I don't like the idea of people suffering in basically any way. But when you look at big executive decisions like this that do feel very cynical and very calculated, but at the same time, very just very tone deaf and off the mark. Even just the fact that they put out a game that just is so bad and they published it anyway, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, what did you expect though? I feel like there's at least some I think it's okay. I think it's all right to feel some satisfaction on some level when big executive types make these kinds of products and these decisions and it doesn't work. You see it blow up in their faces and you go just yeah, what did you expect? This is actually a good thing. This is the market kind of equalizing. You put out a bad thing, you make a bad decision, it does not work out well for you. That's how things work. And yet in this industry, we are robbed. We are robbed the satisfaction of seeing these executive types who make these kinds of decisions. We fail to see them face the consequences of their actions because of the system that they have set up. Full disclosure, all of the information we have about this is technically anecdotal. We do not have any official stats or anything like that. But yeah, again, some anonymous people have come forward to share this information. At the moment, I'm going to entertain the idea that it is all true, simply because it feels very plausible, just based on what has been going on in the industry recently. But it seems that because of the critical and commercial failure of the game, a very large amount of the development team has been fired. Around 20 people have been let go. And that doesn't really sound like a lot, especially when you've got Microsoft or EA firing literally hundreds or thousands of people. Sure, it doesn't seem like a lot. But if you go on the 1010 Games website, 1010 Games, they developed and published Funko Fusion. It shows the team, and 20 is actually a pretty significant amount of this workforce. That must be a pretty major amount of the people who worked on this game. Now, at this point, you may be thinking to yourself, hey, wait a minute. Something's not adding up here. 1010 Games. Who is 1010 Games? This is not EA. This is not Activision. This is not Sony. You're saying that 20 people makes up a pretty significant amount of their workforce? This is clearly not a case of like these super crazy rich executives making these this is not like the kind of story we normally get. And like, if your game fails, it doesn't make enough money, you can't pay your workforce anymore, you know? Sometimes these companies work from job to job, you know, you got funding for something, and if you do it and it doesn't work out, like, we literally just don't have the money to keep employing these people, right? It kind of, sort of makes sense. But here's the sad thing about that. The sad thing here is that I guess you're right. This doesn't seem to be a big company. They may have even just been established for this purpose. It could have just been for making Funko Pop games, because they don't have any other games under their belt. Obviously they have some ties with, like, they're working with the Funko Pop IP and all of these other IPs, so they've got to have some sort of corporate connections. I don't know, maybe they are completely independent and they were just the ones that were hired by Funko Pop. I'm not 100% sure. But the real problem here is that, like, you're right, that's not a huge company. And so it is doubly, trebly depressing to see how this company has treated its employees. Because another argument that you could make is, you hear this sometimes. Oh, the game turned out bad, huh? Well, doesn't that mean the developers were bad? Doesn't that mean the developers, they made a game that wasn't fun to play and was buggy? Doesn't that mean they deserve to get fired? But, as we should all know, most developers know how to make a game. Most developers are hired because they have a good portfolio, and they have generally proven that they know how to make a good product. The thing about game development, though, is the executives on the top get to make any decision they want. This can be a creative decision. This can be, this game has to have this. It has to have this element. It has to have this feature or this mode. And the actual, designers of the game can even say, that's a terrible idea. That's going to make the game bad. And the executives can say, I don't care. People who are not in charge, not involved in any way in the actual, production of the game. They don't even know how to make a game. And yet they can make these unilateral decisions to make it one way or another. So, design-wise, fun-wise, it is hard to blame the developers. They probably did their absolute best, whereas, somebody up at the top, and of course, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, but we do see that a lot. Just hearing developers speak, we so often see sometimes massive teams making massive games. And just being like, yeah, that game turned out bad because they wouldn't let us do this, which would have made it good. Instead, they had it in their heads, we had to do it this way, so we did it, and it turned out bad. And then on the, the fact that the game seemed very buggy and unfinished, hey, you guys, we have to publish by this date. The game has to come out by this date. We're not going to be done by then. Doesn't matter. Again, I'm not there. I couldn't tell you what happens in every single individual case, but for the most part, when a game comes out and it seems like it was unfinished, rushed, it's because it is unfinished. It was rushed, because that was literally the only option they had. They said that it has to come out by a certain time, even if it's not done. So there you go. That's another executive decision that is not the fault of the developers. They were probably all doing their absolute best work possible. And yet, despite the fact that these kinds of failures are almost always exclusively the fault of upper management, as we have seen more and more in recent years, upper management does not have to pay the price for this kind of failure. Even here in the case of 1010 Games, instead of any, people have come forward and just said, yeah, essentially the upper management responsible for this entire project have been completely untouched by this. They've fired a tremendous amount of their workforce. It goes further, though. It's more than that. It's not just them getting fired. It seems that a lot of them got fired while on holiday leave. So, you're on vacation, you're trying to have some well-earned time with your family, and you are told that you have been fired, and They were on vacation because the company pressured them to go on vacation. They pressured them to use their holiday leave so that they wouldn't have to pay out the leave when they were fired. Because when an employee quits or is fired, if they have accrued any leave, then they have the option to just get paid for it. Instead of like using the leave, they can just get paid for the time. 1010 Games didn't want to pay that. So, hey, you look like you need a vacation. Could you go on vacation? While you're on vacation, you're fired. Thanks for using up your vacation time so that we don't have to pay you for it. And I remind you, all of this coming not from EA, not from Ubisoft. Nah, 1010 Games. Who are they? I don't even know. And yet, that's the industry right now. That's the industry right now. I mean, technically every case, it's case by case. Every individual case is its own kind of thing, and you have no idea exactly what factors affect what. Maybe this is just pure speculation, but it feels to me like this kind of behavior has become the norm. You know, like I mean, I don't know if it's like just game budgets have inflated too much. Is it just like making games is just more of a risk now than it used to be? Because it used to be, even with something like this, even when it was just a quote unquote soulless cash grab, just an IP, you know, like all like the movie games that we used to get. Like they would give it to a small team, they'd churn out some garbage, it would do like fine, or maybe not, and whatever, you just move on to the next thing. But now it's this thing where like every single failure has to come with these mass layoffs, because companies now are so risk averse that they're like, immediately you put out a product and it doesn't make any money, we have to save that money by firing all the people, like essentially treating the workers like they are. I mean, okay, it feels a little like over dramatic to make this this analogy, and yet it feels so right. It really does feel accurate. It's the king and the army. The king gets to make all of these strategic decisions. You guys, you specific troops here, go and do this specific thing at this specific place. And if it doesn't work out, well, sorry you died. Like, sorry you all got killed. Oops, my bad. I'm gonna go and sleep comfortably in my nice warm bed after eating a delicious feast of berries and honeyed hams. Developers are now treated like a burnable resource, almost like money itself, where like you spend it. You use it to get something that you want, but like it goes away in the process. Workers are not valued. They're just nothing. They're cattle. They're the coal that you burn in the furnace. And again, it feels more right coming from the bigger, more like established evil companies. But to see it here at 1010 Games, just like this kind of company culture, corporate culture, is just, it's so normalized now. It's literally just what you do. It doesn't even matter how big your company is. That's just what you do. The upper management who makes all the decisions, they never have to pay the price for anything, and the employees under them, they're just whatever. Be as mean and nasty to them as possible to wring every single penny out of their work for you. And this is all to say nothing of, you know, like crunch culture and overwork and all of that stuff. Now, if the thing doesn't work out, don't regroup and say, what are we going to work on next? Nope. Just fire them all, just to save a little bit of money this quarter, just to raise our bottom line a little tiny bit. And if you can save even just a little tiny bit more by being 10 times more cruel to them. Oh, I forgot to mention, no meaningful severance at all for these people. You know, you get fired, severance pay. Hey, we're sorry we had to let you go. Here's some money to help you out. Nothing really like that. No. Go on vacation so I can fire you and I don't have to pay you for it. And there's no, it's just so normal now. That's just how things go. Even in a company with like 100 employees, doesn't even matter, because that's what we do. that's what the big kids are doing, you know. So I feel like I deserve to act that way as well. And it ain't fun. It is not a fun thing to observe, you know, and I joke about us being robbed of the privilege of watching these people fail, but instead all of their workers just get thrown under the bus, you know. I obviously, goes without saying, everyone affected by this, everybody fired, everybody treated like trash, just fuel for the fire. Just what can I even say? I'm really, really sorry that this is the game industry now. I'm sorry that this is what you have to deal with. I'm sorry to anyone who wants to get into game development, because I don't know. I'm gonna go lie down.